So it's the morning, well, afternoon after the night before, and I've already talked about Ben Eubank. I might have a talk about what Chris Eubank Jr. should do next or the rematch and stuff like that. I might do that. I probably will do a live at some point today. I don't know what time, but I will do one this evening at some point. Just to kind of go over thoughts and the aftermath and get your guys' opinion. But in this video, I want to do a review of Anthony Yarde, Lyndon Arthur, and not so much a review, more so a what the hell was that type of video on Anthony Yarde, because he beat Lyndon Arthur in their trilogy fight, so he has won the trilogy. Lyndon Arthur won the first fight, he's won the next two. But for one, this was a trilogy fight that no one asked for, and I expected Anthony Yarde to win. I expected Anthony Yarde to maybe not get the stoppage as early as he did the second time. I think that was in 4 rounds. That was up in Telford and Shropshire. I thought he'd go a little bit longer this time, but I thought it would still be, emphatic. It'd be an emphatic win for Anthony Yarde, and, he would then move on, and he may very well move on. He may very well move on to challenge the likes of Callum Smith, or Benavidez, or, someone like Boazzi, all right? I also said in the run to this fight that the last real impressive performance that Anthony Yarde delivered in victory now, because obviously he was impressive in defeat against Artur Beterbiev, but his last impressive performance in victory was against Lyndon Arthur, and that will be come December, November. That will have been 4 years. It's a long time. It's a long, long time. It's a really long time. And in this fight against Lyndon Arthur, he made very hard work of something he made very easy work of last time around. Both guys are the same age. They're in their early to mid-30s, 33 years old. Both guys, well, Lyndon Arthur, I think, has taken more damage over the last couple of years. He got knocked stopped by Anthony Yarde. He, I think, was down a couple of times against Bivol. He saw the final bell. And that was that. But he had another fight, I think it was in New York Hall, it might have been on Channel 5, I think it was New York, couldn't somewhere else, I'm not sure, where he was in a lot of bother. I think it was an Argentinian fighter he was fighting, or somewhere around that region of the world, and he was in a lot of bother in that fight. He pulled it out in the last round with a 10-round stoppage, but Lyndon Arthur hadn't been looking amazing over the last couple of years. So I was thinking, going into this fight, like Anthony Yarde, although he didn't look amazing last time out against Ralph Vilcans, I think that was a variety of things. I think that was Anthony Yarde not taking him too serious, because for his previous two fights, he'd been feasting on some of those Eastern European guys who maybe have a loss or two on their record and a lot of wins, but in reality, they're really no great shakes. And I think Anthony Yarde's dropping Vilcan so early in the first 10 seconds of the fight, it made him get a little bit too comfy, and Vilcan was able to get back into it. So I thought this time around, he knows Lyndon Arthur very well. He shared the ring with him for many, many, many rounds. So professional rounds as well at that. So he knows what he's dealing with. He knows what he needs to do, and it's just going to be a case of rehashing what he did the second time around. Well, it was nearly a repeat of the first fight. It was competitive. I mean, one judge I think had it 115, 113, which I can't really argue with that scorecard, to be honest with you. It was a very close fight. There was no doubt that Anthony Yarde was the deserved winner. So you couldn't make a case for Lyndon Arthur winning the fight, no. But it was worryingly close and worryingly competitive for Anthony Yarde, who is someone who was talking about going on to challenge for a world title again, who is talking about going on to challenge the guys at world level. And against the guy who he fought a couple of years ago, he's probably, if he has taken less punishment, you would imagine. The Beterbiev fight was damaging, but I think he's taken overall less punishment than Lyndon Arthur. And he looked Anthony Yarde early on, he won the first round, and Lyndon Arthur to me looked a bit, not shell-shook, but just intimidated. You're in there with a guy who can hurt you and knock you out. He did it already, and he did it the last time you guys fought. So even though it was years removed, he did still look very apprehensive in terms of launching his attacks. But once he warmed into it, he started picking up rounds, like they were going out of fashion. The jab was popping, the uppercut was popping, the right hand was working well. And Yarde looks ragged as hell. He looks sloppy as anything. And Anthony Yarde first fight, he started too late applying pressure. In this fight, it was like he didn't know how to apply effective pressure. He was very sloppy with his shots. He was very sloppy with his work rate. The long range boxing, the movement, none of that was working. None of that was working against Lyndon Arthur, who just put a jab on Anthony Yarde and really put him in his place with that jab. He had to take Lyndon Arthur into deep waters. It looked sloppy as hell. It really did from Anthony Yarde. the 11th round. I don't think, see, he hurt Lyndon Arthur last time. I don't think Lyndon Arthur was ever hurt in this fight. I think he was a bit overwhelmed and tired in round 11, but I don't think he was ever on the verge of going down or getting stopped in this fight, no. Which is stark contrast to, again, the last fight wasn't that long ago. It was 3 and a bit years, nearly 4 years ago now, but still, they were in their late 20s, now they're in their mid to early 30s. It's not like they were, just coming to the end, now they're washed. It's not like that. Anthony Yarde didn't look good there. And to be honest with you, to be perfectly honest and frank, I think that Anthony Yarde, I've said this once and I'll say it again, at the time when the Lyndon Arthur fight happened, back in 2020, the very first fight, I said at the time that might actually be one of the better things that has happened to Anthony Yarde, because it gives Anthony Yarde, who was still quite young at the time, I think he was about 28 or so, thereabouts, it still gives him enough time to be able to reinvent himself. Tunde, as a trainer for Anthony Yarde, has done great work with him. We cannot take that away from him. He absolutely has. For Anthony Yarde to look as polished as he does, with only, 10 amateur fights at a fairly low level. It wasn't like these were 10 amateur fights where he's in the ABAs or, trying to get on the Team GB squad. It's nothing like this. It's very, very low level. So for him to look as polished and refined as he did, or he does, it's a testament to Tunde, right? But he can only take him so far. That's apparent. That was apparent in 2020. 4.5 years ago. Now it's like you've done it. You've gone too long, and I don't think you have time to reinvent yourself now. If he had left, and I always looked at Adam Boot as a potential trainer for Anthony Yarde because he teaches that ambush style. Anthony Yarde is athletic, he's fast, he can punch, he's got long arms. Adam Boot would love that. He would have a field day with Anthony Yarde with his attributes. It would gel very well with his style. Grant Smith is another option. I mean, Grant Smith is a tremendous coach. He's really underrated. I think he's fantastic. I really do. These are coaches that could, Shane McGuigan, another one. These are there's loads of them that could have done so much with Anthony Yarde back then, and I think it could have took him to the next level. He probably still would have lost to Beterbiev. I'm not saying that with a different coach he would have beaten Beterbiev. No, I think he still would have lost that fight. It probably still would have went the same way. But I think Yarde would have more elements to his game had he left Tunde. And I think now is the time to do it. I mean, when you look at the open workouts and the pads, when he's on the pad, and I'm not someone who likes pads, to be honest with you. I don't really think that they benefit you in any way. But when you've got a coach who's like, pads there, and he's got the hat, what the hell? What, is this a gimmick or something? Are we just trying to show off for TikTok or Instagram or something? Or are we actually trying to teach the fight or something? It's ridiculous. Emmanuel Stewart didn't do pads, and whenever he did, you'll often find Manny Stewart, he wouldn't move the pad. He would always just hold it still. If you ever see McClellan back in the day on the pads with Stewart, he's literally just holding that pad. He's not moving it. Where you see like all these fighters, they're just like blah, 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 moving. What the hell? He's not going to do that in the fight. So I don't agree with Anthony Yarde staying with Tunde. I think this is probably the last wake-up call he has. And to be honest with you, quite frankly, I don't think he has the time. I think now he's probably getting to the age where that athleticism is going to wane. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. is looking fairly at the end, and he's only 2 years older than Anthony Yarde. I think Anthony Yarde has wasted his best years. He's made a lot of money, so obviously that's a good thing. Still lives in East London. I mean, credit to him. I really enjoyed that East London documentary he did with the Ring magazine. It was weird because I recognise a lot of the places he was in, because I don't live where I live in Stratford, but I don't live where he used to live. I live in E20, which is the newer part, but I still recognise a lot of the older parts where he was, which was really nice. So I like Anthony Yarde as a person, East London true and true. And I spent the last 6 months of my life in East London. I like East London. I like the people. So I've all the credit in the world for him, but he needs to move on from Tunde. He's only probably got a good 2 years left in his career. He needs to make hay while the sun shines, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. That's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And until next time, people, I'll leave it there. Peace and love.